Hey guys, welcome to my 4-part series on my beginner mini album. I've really gotten into doing a lot of these. I've had a lot of my customers, they're just not into the big 12 by 12 scrapbooking pages anymore. They usually have just a few pictures of a certain event and they're wanting, smaller albums. So I've been having to really rack my brain and completely do a 360 on creating a different album for them. So this is, like I said, a very beginner basic one. It doesn't have a lot of advanced mechanisms like the waterfall or extra pocket pages or anything like that. It's just a very simple beginner album. And then as we progress, I'll update the albums with more interactive pages and waterfalls and things like that, and pocket pages that we can make and create in the albums. But this is just a very basic, simple album that I think I have simplified enough for you to do. Now, I'm going to be constructing the album. I will try to look over as best I can to, answer your comments. If you can, just put your questions in the comment. I will look over periodically to see them. And then after the video, I will answer the questions. Now, everything that I use today, when I upload the video to YouTube and my channel, I will link everything that I use for you in case you want to get any of the supplies. Today, we are going to be featuring the Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper. It's in the holiday catalog. And I'm also going to be using the 12 by 12 cardstock pack that's only offered right now during this time. However, I will let you know other places you can find the 12 by 12 black cardstock. Most of the time, I make all my albums in black. There are occasions when the paper packs don't match with black, and I'll have to go to an outside source to get usually a brown. So I'm usually either doing a brown, like chocolate cardstock, or the basic black. This is the album, and today we're just going to focus on basically the shell of the album, and that's why I decided to do a small 4-part series. That way you don't get overwhelmed or think you can't do it. I've broken it down as simple as I can. So we're just going to do the shell part today. Tomorrow we're going to work on the hinges and the pages, and then Thursday and Friday we're going to be decorating the inside. So the total measurements are 4.5 by 6.5. And it will hold a page here for a photo. It also is a little pocket down here. A little pocket that you can put tags in or journaling cards or whatever you want to put down there. Now, inside the pages that I have created, you can also make these all have pockets in them. So you could add another card in here. You could add tags in here. You could add more photos in here. Just whatever you wanted to do. So it's very simple. In each page, I tried to make different, and I tried to decorate in the middle of the spine. But the papers are gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. I just love them. And then I also created the same pocket on the back. And then I decorated the front with some of the Designer Series paper and the flowers. And what I did was, there's flowers underneath on this page. And then I used our Stampin' Dimensionals to pop some of the flowers up that were the same that I cut. So there's like a 3D effect. I don't know if you can see, but they're popped up on dots, so it's a 3D effect there. And then I continued it on with the spine. I cut out a pumpkin just to keep up with the theme that we were doing. And then there's the back. Like I said, very, very simple. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing you're going to need is chipboard. Now, Stampin' Up! Does not sell chipboard. Therefore, I get it off of Amazon. I will link that below in the video once I upload it. It comes like this. it's like a medium weight. I think it's 85 pounds is what it is, but it's really easy to use. It's really easy to cut. I put it in my trimmer, my second trimmer, and cut away. So it's really easy to cut. So anytime that you're making the base or the shell of your album, you're going to want to use chipboard. So you're going to need one piece of chipboard that's 2 by 4.5. And you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that are 6.5 by 4.5, 2 pieces. And then you're going to need 1 piece of black cardstock that's 5 by 6.5, and 2 pieces of cardstock that are 6.5 by 8.5. Hey, Loretta. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is take our 5 by 6.5 piece and our 2 by 4.5 piece. Now I will tell you, when you're creating albums, your most usable tools are going to be your adhesive, you're going to need a bone folder, and of course all your embellishments and paper. You'll need scissors, ruler, but I'm going to get into that in just a second. But back in the day when I was growing up, wallpaper was a really big thing. And if you've ever wallpapered, creating a basic album shell is just going to be like wallpapering. And I'll get to that in just a few minutes. So what we went on to do is this 2 by 4.5 piece, we just want to get in the middle as much as possible. So I highly recommend, you know that I pretty much use glue year round. I am a glue girl, but for albums it's very important. You definitely want to use a strong adhesive, and you definitely want to use something that you can move around and get in place if you were to mess up. Once you use tear and tape, it's going to be really hard. Plus, you know, you're making these albums to last. You really, really want them to last. So what I do is I get it even. You're going to maybe have some excess. You're just going to want to wipe it off. And then, like wallpapering, a bone folder is going to be your best friend in creating albums. It is very important that that glue that you put on is pressed up and down and all the sides. You definitely want to make sure that it is covered. Okay, the next thing we're going to do that I like to do is I like to take it and stand it up on its side. And basically you're just getting the paper to start breaking down in fiber. And then you want to grab a bone folder and you just want to crease that down really good. Bone folder is another important tool. You want all your lines to be very, very crisp. And these are so fun to make. I'm getting to where now, as I get older, I don't have all those pictures anymore to complete the 12 by 12 albums anymore. I just have like bits and pieces of pictures, and this is a great way to do it. Plus, if you're a beginner, this is a really good album. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut out these 4 squares. And pretty much when you start making albums, you're going to... I didn't grab any scissors. I usually have my bucket here. This is pretty much what I use every time I make an album. So I like to keep it in front of me. So, yes, you need a bone folder of some sort. I have a ton of them. But as you just start to make these albums, you're going to use the same method, just like I'm doing here. You're going to use the chipboard. You're going to use the folding technique. You're going to cut out your 4 corners. And these are great for like new moms to have a brag book, grandmas to have a brag book, you know, wedding shower. You could give this to your, you know, the future bride. You could put recipes in it for them. You know, these are just really good to make. So, just cutting along those score lines. And you really want to make sure that your cutting is just about as spot on as you can get it, because it will show up later on. So the next thing I want to do is I want to just thin these layers out a little bit. I want to make sure that score line is out of there because it will show. So I'm just cutting a smidge off and mitering in just a tad, just a tad. And you want to do that to all of the sides. Just cutting a sliver. Basically, you just want to get that score line out of there. You want to make sure. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is add adhesive to the smallest tabs. And I try to get glue also right up against the edge. I gotta put these, gotta get this glue that I just opened. You will go through a lot of glue, but you want these albums to last. And a lot of people, you know, they'll tell you more is best. So we just want to put this up here and we want to mash it down. We want to get our bone folder. You know, Stampin' Up! Has bone folders too. Like I said, I have a ton of bone folders. I mean, you just can't go wrong. Now, if the glue comes out, that's okay. I just wash it off with my rag. And you just want to smooth that out. You really want to make sure that's adhered. Like I said, I like to butt it right up against the chipboard. And the reason it's important to go over it with the bone folder is because, just like I was talking about wallpapering, you don't want any air bubbles in there. You don't ever want your paper to bubble up or to be uneven. You really want it to be adhered down well. Okay, so for right now, this piece can go off to the side. We're going to bring in our bigger pieces. So like I said, you need 2 pieces that are 6.5 by 8.5, and we're basically going to do the same technique that we did on that one to this one. I just try to eyeball it and get it in the middle. When I do this, I really try to get my glue as close to the edges as possible. This is not something you ever want to have come up. You will use your bone folder throughout the entire process. You will use it every time that you adhere glue somewhere. You will use it. Because you really want to make sure that glue is just spread out evenly and no bubbles will come up. So, same thing as before. I just start bending my paper up just to start breaking down those fibers. You can do so much with these. And this is really good too. If you have, like me, you know, I would, you know, have bought some paper in the past and I still haven't used yet. And you're like, what can I do with this paper? You know, create an album with it. You know, use it. I always say, use what you have in your stash. So these albums are great for things like that. Same thing again. We're going to cut out the 4 corners. And the reason you're probably wondering why I'm doing this, and I need to explain why I'm doing this, is when you fold this up around your chipboard, you don't want all this extra bulk. So you want to take out these pieces so you're not going to have that extra bulk. And then we're going to even do something further so that it will thin it down even more. Well, so I just cut right along those score lines. Same thing again, I'm just going to miter off just a little bitty piece. And this just helps everything go into place better. Like you see, I'm not taking that much off. And you'll want to do all of the ends that way. Okay. So we have this one done. Next we're going to bring in our last one. Yeah, that recipe is really good. I remember for one of my showers, that's what they did. They had made me an album, and then they had put all their favorite recipes in there for me. I try to use a flat one. I've got, like I said, I've got so many bone folders. You can get these at the Dollar Tree for $1. It's just something you can, you know, manipulate well is what I try to use. But you definitely want to make sure that that glue is all spread out. And then I use a microfiber towel just to wipe off the excess. This way too, by bringing it up first, it'll get as close to that chipboard edge as possible. Okay, same thing, we're just going to cut off the edges. Oh my goodness, I'm so ready for fall. This is like the last month of summer. I'm so excited. I'm just so over it. It has been an enormously hot summer. So I'm just going to miter again. Okay, the next thing we want to do is glue all the flaps down. But before we do that, even though I've eliminated some of the bulk, I want to do some more. That's just, you know, I don't like the way that looks folded over. So, what you're going to do is you're going to take a ruler. Get my ruler. And we're going to put it at an angle, and you will need, like an X-Acto knife, or something to cut. So you're going to put it at an angle and right there before the chipboard. You don't want to cut all the way to the chipboard, just on the score line. You just want to take it and cut these off. You just want to cut those off. And what you'll notice is if you do that, then it goes together a lot neater. It goes together like a book. This is basically a book binding system. So I really like having those clean edges cut off. So we're going to do the same thing to all four corners. You want to make sure your ruler is above the point of the chipboard. And I just hold that down. I don't have my cutting mat over here, so it would probably go in better. So now you can see it's going to fold down much neater, and you're not going to have all that bulk there. It just really helps. So just want to make sure I come up from that chipboard. I don't want to cut all the way at the chipboard. And then the same thing on the last one. Come up a little bit from the chipboard. And your grid paper is really good, or your cutting mat, so you can get them hopefully straight as possible. I really need my cutting mat over here. There we go. Okay, so I've got all these four done. Now I'm going to do the same over here. Coming up from the chipboard. Yep. I'm going to have to get my cutting board because this is making a mess. It's almost like I'm not cutting close enough. Let's see if this works better. Oh yeah, much better. Wonder if my blade is weak. That might be an issue. I've been making a lot of these lately, so it might be the blade. Of course, it's not going to do it when it's on camera. There we go. Okay, so now we're back to our glue method. We want to get as close to that bottom edge of the chipboard. So I really like the bookbinding method. It just makes it a lot neater. So no matter what size album you're making, you'll always want to do this method of cutting the four corners off, then mitering, and then gluing. no matter what the size. Or, you know, the first day of school's coming up for kids. I've seen a lot of my friends posting their grandkids and kids on there, and, you know, you snap about 5 or 6 pictures, and this would be the perfect album to put them in. So there you can see, you know, it's just so much better. And then what I like to do with this is just kind of round my corners. I don't really like things that are pointy. So I just take my bone folder and just round those corners just a little bit. So it's like a book, and therefore, and it's, you know, it's a good base. So we're going to do the same thing. I love the bookbinding method. It's just really important to spread that glue around. Go. Okay, so now we have basically our front and back. Round my corners off. Okay, so we're going to bring in our 2 by 4.5 piece that we did, and basically this is our beginning to create our spine of our album. So be careful when you're doing this step. I have messed up doing these albums before. You don't want to put the back cover directly onto here, because what's going to happen is this is going to show. So what you want to do is put it on the outside. That way you're not going to see that flap. So I just want to line this edge up against this score line. And you want to give it a nice press. And then you want to flip it over and make sure it's pressed down really well. So now you can kind of see it's coming together. You've got your back piece on. Now we got to put on the front flap. And it will go here. Don't you love it when little things come together? These remind me of like puzzles. All the paper just fits into place. These are so fun to make. Now when I'm making these, of course, off camera, what I like to do is to just hold these on with some clips at first, just to make sure that they're adhering down well. It doesn't take long for the glue to adhere, but it just helps give it a little bit more stability. So you can see that this is basically the shell of the album. And all this gets covered, so, you know, don't have to worry about anything like that. Everything gets covered. Now, I can see down here that this is wanting to lift a little bit, so. Let me try to do is just move that over there. So all this will get covered. I don't want you to think, oh, that's so ugly. You know, all that's going to be covered. This is basically how you do the construction part of your album. So when you have it, it looks like this. Let me get that glue out of there. It'll dry clear, but this is the basic shell of your album. With a chipboard and a little bit of cardstock, you can create a really cute mechanism. So tomorrow on part 2, we're going to be doing the inside part, and we're also going to be making our hinges. It's a hinging mechanism that will hold our pages. So that's in part 2. If you want to go ahead and make this with me as we go, you'll have time this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow to get it together and be ready for part 2 tomorrow. So if you have any questions, leave them below. I will link this up to my YouTube channel sometime tonight or early morning. It'll go out. Everything that I've used today, I will put in the description bar below. And I'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock for part 2. Thanks for joining in.